Hey everybody, welcome to the shop. Today I'm starting a new order of tabletops, and if you guys have been following me for a little while on Instagram, you may remember seeing me post about a bunch of tabletops that I made before, maybe a little over a year ago. And they were all rustic wood and we covered them all in epoxy. Everybody loved the finished product and then they really enjoyed seeing the process through Instagram. But since it was so well received, why not make a video building the whole entire tabletop, and that way you guys can see it all come together. Graceful. So to make things a little easier on myself, I'm gonna break down this full sheet into two separate sheets. So to cut down this plywood, I'm gonna follow this black line right here that's already there from the factory. It's kind of straight. This project has a lot of round tabletops and also some Lazy Susans. So to get the round shape, I'm going to be using my circle cutting jig. As you can see on the underside of the circle cutting jig, I've made some marks for some of the more common distances that I would use. I'm going to put my little reference pin at the 4-foot mark, and that's a measurement all the way to the inside edge of the router bit. So the first thing I need to do in order to use the circle cutting jig is I need to find the center point on my workpiece. That way I can drill in a little hole for the reference pin. I've got 8 round tables in this order, and each table is getting 2 layers of wood for rigidity. So that's 16 layers total, and I got 1 down and I got 15 to go.
Triple stack.
I got all the circles cut out for the 48-inch round tabletops, and there's also going to be some 30-inch round tabletops in this order, and so to cut those out, I switched over to my smaller circle cutting jig. So like I did before, I'll set my reference pin to the, well, which one is it? You still recording? Mm-hmm. So like I did before, I'll set my reference pin where I want it here, and this distance to there is 15 inches, which means I got a 30-inch diameter. All right, all the circles are cut out, and what I need to do next is trim up the remaining sheets so that they're all the same size, which is gonna be about 48 by 48. So let's get this stuff glued down. Just gonna push the glue around so that I get a lot of even coverage. So I got good, nice coverage of glue over the surface of the first piece. I'm gonna go ahead and just run some screws down so it holds everything nice and tight. I've got all the shapes cut out for the tabletops and Lazy Susans, and now it's time for the next step. And you're probably thinking, well, Seth, what is the next step? How could you possibly make these any more beautiful than this? Name one thing that's more beautiful than OSB. Hashtag reclaimed wood. I've got a few hundred square feet of reclaimed wood here, and it's square feet, not linear feet, not board feet. To get the pattern that I'm going for on these tables, I'm gonna rip all these boards down into different width strips. Stop. But before I do that, I'm going to swap out my regular table saw blade with a thin kerf blade. And the only blade that I have that's a thin kerf right now is a circular saw blade. And I want to use the thin kerf blade because I want to waste as little material as possible on this wood because it's expensive. Especially here in Southern California, where everything is freaking expensive. So I'm going to switch out the blade and then we'll get cutting. All right, check out all the character on these boards. One of the things that I love most about making these tabletops is using this reclaimed wood and seeing all the awesome colors that come out, all the different shades of browns and grays. So I'm gonna finish cutting up the rest of those strips and then I can get to assembling the pattern. All right, so I've got all the wood ripped down into the strips that I want, and a whole bunch of the strips I've ripped down to 1 inch. And in this case, I've painted them white because I want to lay down a reference line before I start laying down my actual pattern. And that reference line is gonna dictate how the pattern flows. So I'm gonna get started by laying down the first one and then show you what I do next. I feel like going right here with my first line. Be right back. Lay down some glue. Okay, here we go. So the reference lines are in place, and like I said, this is gonna help me to decide how the rest of the pattern goes. But there's one more thing that I've gotta do before we can really start laying down the pattern. It's a pretty hot idea. Like literally, it's a branding iron. I'm gonna give it a quick test burn and see if it's hot enough to use, and then we'll brand a couple boards with it so we can get their logo on there, and then we can finally start cutting the boards and attaching them to this tabletop. You can see where I tested the other branding irons on the other tabletop projects. Let's check it out and see how it goes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready, coming up. Gosh dang. Here we go. And it looks like crap. Not too bad. Now that we've got our first piece, we're gonna start laying down the pattern. And then I'm just gonna trim the underside here with my pencil. And this is my trim line, if you can see it. You see it? Des, can you hand me my nail gun? Can you get my nail gun? Can you get my nail gun? It's over there. There's not really a set pattern, so it's kind of random, but at the same time, there is some thought behind it. That's one of the things that I love most about it, is that I can just kind of design it on the fly, and it still looks cool. All right, so I've come up to this corner here, and I think I want to break up the dark woods a bit. So I'm gonna take some more of my white reference trim, and I'm gonna put it down in here, and I'm gonna put a little So now I just got to finish off this. For the Lazy Susans and the medium-sized rounds, I'm going to do a two-step process to trim off all this excess wood. And to do that, I'm going to use the bandsaw. So let's do some trimming. Break time. So thanks for watching part one. I had so much footage from this that there's probably gonna be at least 2 parts, but I figured the 10-minute mark would be a good point to stop part one. If you liked it, I hope that you'll give me a thumbs up, and if you're not already a subscriber, I would love to have you. Also be sure to follow me over on Instagram at StuffSethMakes. I post a lot more frequently over there, a lot of photos and like short video clips and more of the day-to-day stuff of what I'm doing in the shop. So part 2 is coming soon. I hope you'll stick around to see it. Thanks.